You know that person who goes quiet the moment small talk starts? The one who suddenly checks their phone, nods politely, smiles, and disappears mentally? Yeah, that person isn't awkward. And they're definitely not rude. They're protecting something. If you've ever felt more comfortable sitting in silence than talking about the weather, work gossip, or what someone had for dinner last night, welcome. You're about to feel very seen. Today, we're breaking down the psychology of people who prefer silence over small talk, the ones society calls quiet, cold, or hard to read, but psychology calls something else entirely. Here's the thing, most people talk to avoid discomfort. Silence feels like a threat to them. Their brain rushes to fill it with anything, words, jokes, noise, random questions they don't actually care about. But for some people, silence doesn't feel empty. It feels safe. Extroverts often think out loud. Their thoughts form as they speak. Talking helps them regulate emotion. But people who prefer silence process internally first. Their thoughts happen before words. And not every thought deserves to be spoken. So when small talk starts, busy week, huh? Crazy weather today, their brain doesn't engage, not because they're above it, but because it doesn't stimulate anything meaningful. Psychologists link this to something called low stimulation preference. Some nervous systems thrive on noise, novelty, and constant interaction. Others get overwhelmed by it. For them, too much talking feels like mental clutter. Every unnecessary conversation slowly drains their energy. And silence recharges it. But here's where it gets misunderstood. Small talk isn't actually about information. It's about reassurance. It's a social signal that says, I'm safe, you're safe, we're okay. People who enjoy it feel connected through talking. People who prefer silence feel connected without it. And that difference, that's where the tension comes from. Here's something most people never consider. If you're comfortable with silence, you're usually comfortable with yourself. You don't need constant validation. You don't need to perform interest. You don't need to fill every gap. And that makes others uneasy. Because silence forces awareness. It makes people confront their own thoughts. And not everyone likes what shows up when the noise stops. Think about it. Put two strangers in an elevator. One starts talking immediately. The other stays quiet. Who gets labeled awkward? Not the one nervously rambling, the one who's calm enough to stay silent. That says more about society than it does about you. But there's more going on beneath the surface. People who avoid small talk often crave depth. They're not antisocial, they're selective. They don't want 10 shallow conversations. They want one real one. That's why they light up during late-night talks. Why they can listen for hours when the topic actually matters. Why they suddenly become expressive with the right person. Silence isn't their absence. It's their filter. Now let's talk about the uncomfortable part. Sometimes silence isn't just preference. Sometimes it's protection. People who grew up unheard, interrupted, or emotionally dismissed often learn early that speaking doesn't lead to connection. So they stop wasting words. They observe, they listen. They choose carefully. For them, small talk feels fake because they learn that words don't always mean safety. And that's why silence can feel more honest. But here's the important distinction. Do you prefer silence because it brings you peace? Or because speaking feels pointless? Because one is self-awareness. The other is emotional fatigue. Psychology shows that when silence comes from clarity, it's grounding. When it comes from exhaustion, it can become isolating. And most people never stop to ask themselves which one it is. Here's something wild. Studies show that people comfortable with silence often score higher in introspection, emotional regulation, and deep focus. Their inner world is busy, just not loud. While others are talking to avoid thinking, they're thinking instead. And that's why small talk feels unnecessary. It interrupts something richer happening inside. But society doesn't reward that. It rewards visibility, noise, constant expression. So quiet people get overlooked, misread, pushed to open up, as if silence is a flaw to fix. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit: not all connection requires words. Some of the strongest bonds are built in shared quiet. Sitting together, doing nothing, understanding without explaining. If that hit you, good. It means you needed to hear it. Now let's flip this into something practical. If you want to stop feeling misunderstood, you don't need to force yourself into small talk. You just need to redirect it. Instead of asking shallow questions, ask real ones. Gently. What's been taking up most of your energy lately? What do you enjoy when no one's watching? What do you think about when things get quiet? The right people won't be scared by those questions. They'll lean in. The wrong ones will fade out. And that's not a loss. That's clarity. So if you're someone who prefers silence over small talk, you're not boring. You're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're just wired for depth over noise, meaning over performance, presence over chatter. Tell me, do you feel more connected in silence or in conversation? And if you want the kind of psychology that explains the parts of you most people misunderstand, the next video is going to hit even harder.